Hey guys, welcome to another video from eWaste Profits. In today's video, I wanted to talk about 10 reasons that you should probably get a Mac Mini over a iMac. I recently came to acquire a iMac M1 with a cracked screen, and it gave me some time to kind of review a lot of the differences between the Mac Mini and the iMac. I've had an iMac since I think 2021. I got the original M1 model. And when you're thinking about like all the different things that you should or shouldn't buy, all the conveniences or inconveniences of getting an iMac over a Mac Mini, there's a lot to like about the iMac, for sure. And it's a great little machine. And when you sum it all up, when you're talking about the quality of the screen and all that, it is still a good buy. So let's get into it. So number one, and this is probably the biggest issue that I've seen as of recent, is the iMac screen is glass, okay? And it's not just a glass plate, it's fused to the screen. What does that mean? That means that basically if you crack it, and I like the one that I purchased recently from somebody, they don't even know how they cracked it. They just looked at it one day and they noticed there was a crack. It could have been, maybe their kid threw a ball across the room or something, who knows? But the point I'm making is, you can crack it and not even know it. And once you do that, the screen component, the screen and the glass is all one piece. Just that part alone is about $550, and that's not even including the labor. So you could assume the labor alone is probably at least a minimum of $100 to change that out. So right off the bat, if you break that screen, you're looking at probably like a $650, $700 repair cost, maybe even more, who knows, just to replace that screen. Whereas the Mac Mini, you could buy multiple screens. You could probably get 2 4K screens for well under $500 these days. And if you break a screen, it'll probably be like $150, $200 to replace it. If you have a high-end screen, maybe $350. Number two, networking. If you're in the ballpark of upgrading your network to like a 2.5 gigabit network or a 10 gigabit network, and that's on your radar, you have to remember that the iMac has a gigabit Ethernet port on the power connector, but you do not have 2.5 gigabit Ethernet and you do not have 10 gigabit Ethernet, whereas the Mac Mini has a 10 gigabit option for an additional $100. I got it on mine when I bought the M1 Mac Mini. And sure, you can get a USB 2.5 gigabit adapter. And those are relatively cheap. You're looking at like $20 or $30 for a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet adapter. But once you go to the 10 gigabit adapters that are external, those can easily run $150 to $300 just for those, because they require a heat sink, and it's a bigger adapter. So it's something to definitely think about when you're like if you're going to be doing a lot of photo editing, or you already have a network attached storage like I do. I just upgraded to a Synology NAS that has a 10 gigabit module, and I have 10 gigabit networking. That would really be a pain if you wanted to get 10 gigabit on your iMac. Number three is limited ports on the base model. On the base iMac model, which I'm referring to the base model on the iMac mainly because that's probably the Mac that most people are going to get, because it's the cheapest one that they can get, has only 2 Thunderbolt ports on the back. 2. So that means, you know, whatever, if you have an external SSD plugged into one, you have 1 port left, and you could saturate that with really anything. I mean, you could have a webcam or whatever. So right out of the gate, you're going to have some sort of a hub or something like that. And the hubs can cost anywhere from $30 for a cheap one all the way up to $200 for the higher end Thunderbolt hubs. So that's something to keep in mind. The Mac Mini, on the other hand, it's got 3 Thunderbolt ports on the back, and it's got 2 USB-C ports on the front. So you're not going to have to buy something. I mean, if you have a lot of stuff that you're plugging in, obviously you're going to have to. But, you know, just out of the gate, you should be okay with most use cases. Number 4 is they don't have a gigabit Ethernet option on the base model. So just like point number 2, when I was talking about it's only gigabit Ethernet, just to have that gigabit Ethernet, you have to upgrade. And I probably recommend upgrading to that anyway, because I don't remember how much it is, but it's definitely going to be something that you might use. Even if you're using Wi-Fi now, you might want to get a wired connection later, and you'll have that. And later on, if you sell it, you'll have that gigabit Ethernet port, which somebody might want. But that's kind of funny that the base model doesn't even have a gigabit Ethernet port. Number 5 is you can only upgrade the iMac to 24 gigabytes on the base model. On the Mac Mini, you can upgrade it to 32 gigabytes. So if you were thinking about upgrading the RAM, I mean, you might want to go with the Mac Mini right there, because you're going to have a lot more upgrade options. Number 6, the SSD is not upgradable. Now on the Mac Mini, they've already shown videos on the Mac Mini M4 that they are on a removable card. Now that doesn't mean you can just go to Best Buy and buy a new 1 terabyte SSD. It's a proprietary card. But it does mean that there is an upgrade path, and there are people that have already demonstrated that. Whereas the Mac Mini, all that stuff is soldered to the main board. So, you know, the only option you really have is an external SSD. So, so that's something to keep in mind. Number 7, 1 terabyte is the maximum storage that you can get on the iMac. Whereas on the Mac Mini, you can go all the way up to 2 terabytes. Now, me personally, I think it's crazy the amount that they charge for the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte options. You know, on my Mac Mini, I have an external 1 terabyte SSD. I just can't pay that much money for, and not just that, I don't need that much on the main boot drive because I'm using a network attached storage anyway. But it's something to think about. Like if you wanted to get a 2 terabyte, it's not going to happen on the iMac. You're going to have to get the Mac Mini. Number 8, for the same $12.99 price, you can get a Mac Mini M4 with 32 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabyte SSD, and a 10 gigabit Ethernet. So basically what I'm saying there is when you compare $1,300 with the base iMac and what you would get with the Mac Mini, you're already getting a well spec'd out Mac Mini. Now granted, there are additional costs. You're going to have to buy the mouse, the keyboard, the monitor, and whatever extra peripherals that you're going to have. But, you know, if you're looking at comparing both models, you know, you're going to get a nice Mac Mini when you compare it to the base model of the iMac. So number 9, the base iMac has a lower spec M4 chip. It has an 8-core chip versus the 10-core that's on the Mac Mini M4. Why they chose to do that, I have no idea. But you're getting a better M4 chip just by going with the Mac Mini alone. Number 10, The iMac supports 2 external displays, and the Mac Mini supports 3. So if you were eventually thinking of expanding the screens and the real estate you had on your desk, you might as well just go with the Mac Mini anyway, because there is that limitation there. And I had a bonus, number 11. The Mac keyboard and the mouse, in my personal use, isn't really. It's okay. It's okay, and it's a lot of people will buy it for the Mac Mini and realize that they just didn't even like it anyway. The only real thing that keyboard has that's a real nice plus, in my opinion, is it has the fingerprint reader for the touch. So when you want to log into your Mac, you got that touch just like you do on the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air. You don't have that with the Mac Mini, and you can't really get that with the Mac Mini, even if you bought the Mac keyboard. That's kind of nice, but you have a lot better options. Like for example, the Logitech MX keys is a very nice option, very nice keyboard, backlit. It's weighted and it has a nice feel. It's great for typing, and there's a lot of nice mouse options. The Logitech Anywhere 3 MX mouse, very good mouse. You could also get wired gaming mice, that have a higher precision. But overall, the keyboard isn't really that great anyway, when you get down to it. And I had to double check, but I think the keyboard doesn't even have numeric keys anyway. So like if you're doing a lot of numbers work or accounting or office stuff, you're not even going to have the numeric keys. You're going to have that standard keyboard. So I like the Mac Mini because you have kind of like a blank slate, and you can kind of do anything you really want. You can go out and get 2 32-inch 4K monitors. You could get 27 or 28-inch monitors, have a real nice setup, and you can get there's all sorts of nice monitors. There's the LG Ultrafine. Samsung makes some nice monitors. You could have the color monitors that you want, and you can have a really nice setup at your desk. You can mount the Mac Mini under your desk. I mean, it's so small, even if it's on your desk, you're not going to see it. But I have mine mounted under my desk, so you don't even see it. You could even mount these things behind the monitor, depending on your setup, where it's off the desk anyway. So, it's almost like you had an all-in-one, once you're done with it, because there's really nothing on the desk. So it's nice and clean. But the point I'm making is you can do whatever setup you want. Whereas the iMac, it's a nice, safe option. But for me, the whole deal breaker is that glass screen. Once that thing cracks, you are in a world of hurt. So I hope this helps your buying decisions, guys. Great system. I love the fact that these now have a base of 16 gigabytes. They always should have had that. That's what I got when I got the Mac Mini M1. I made sure I had at least 16 gigabytes. So I had a little bit of growth there, and if you're doing some video editing, at least you have a little bit of extra breathing room. But overall, great choice either way you go, and I hope this helps your decisions. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next one.